Dan Illman, Mike Beer, 3 stakes races on tap at Saratoga on Friday. Let's kick things off with race number 9. It's the Evan Shipman Handicap. These are some nice New York breds going a mile out of the chute at the Spa. Before we take a look at the field, remember to check out those Timeform US past performances available at DRF.com. Pace ratings, speed ratings, pedigree info, trainer info, lots more. Learn about all the features, drf.com/TFUS 101. Here's the field for the Evan Shipman Handicap. What an interesting horse breaking from the inside, Mike. It's the number 1 American Revolution, who won the Grade 1 Cigar Mile in 2021 and did some pretty good things through an abbreviated 2022 campaign. Now returns off a lengthy layoff for Todd Pletcher.
Yeah, this is a real good race without American Revolution in it, Dan. I mean, it might still be good because it's over 340 days since we last saw this horse. But I think it's pretty clear that if he comes back and he's close to his best, this field's in very big trouble.
And we'll throw up the Timeform US pace projector for this race. American Revolution is very tactical, and our friends at Timeform US believe that he can tuck in just in behind the leaders. The 3 Lobster has speed, Sunday with Sandy has speed, so does Sheriff Bianco, stretching out slightly. I think this pace will be solid, and I think American Revolution will likely be fresh and saving ground in behind the leaders.
Yeah, I won't argue with that too much. I did think the 3 and the 4 would certainly go forward in here. I thought Sheriff Bianco was a little more tactical, and if this pace gets fast, he'll probably take off of this thing and look for a spot. But I won't argue too hard with the pace projector.
American Revolution hasn't raced since last year's Jockey Club Gold Cup, a Grade 1. He ran very well that day to be second to Olympiad, who was sort of lost in the shuffle in Flightline's phenomenal season. He would end up finishing second in the Breeders' Cup Classic with a 111 buyer. American Revolution chased that horse in the Stephen Foster, and this race, the Jockey Club Gold Cup, was a carbon copy of the Stephen Foster. A good effort from American Revolution.
Yeah, good performance here. He's just not quite as good as Olympiad. It was sort of, the similar thing 2 starts back in the Stephen Foster. He ran really well that day. Olympiad just happens to be a better horse than he is. It's unfortunate we only got to see this horse 3 times last year, Dan. He didn't win any of those. He ran pretty well in every one of those races, though. The last time he won a mile, it was a Grade 1 win in the Cigar Mile. So, I mean, it's all right there on paper. You have the layoff to worry about. Maybe it's not a great sign that he comes back off of this long layoff against New York breds when you know he's a graded stakes quality horse. But his good race is just too good for these horses.
4 for 4 lifetime against New York breds. Mike mentioned the Grade 1 win at a mile. He's the horse to beat despite the layoff. He's got 5 triple-digit buyer speed figures from 10 lifetime starts. The number 2 is Dr. Ardito, a bit of an in-and-outer for trainer Chad Brown. He was 4th last time out in the Commentator, Mike. It was a race where he kind of fell back. He made a little bit of a run in the stretch. On his best day, I think he can contend with this horse. You just never seem to know what you're going to get from him.
Yeah, and it's going to take a trip for this horse, too. That pace projector we looked at, if this thing does get competitive up front, it will help this horse because he'll come running at the end of his races. His Commentator wasn't great, Dan. I didn't think it was terrible either. He worked really, really hard in that race. He was going nowhere around the turn. But, as is typical of this horse, he just stayed on through the stretch. He was actually making up ground again at the end. He got relatively close to the leaders. I thought it was a fine performance. He makes a lot of sense in this race. He's just going to need the right trip.
Down from Finger Lakes is a horse with some back claps. That's the number 3 Lobster, who went gate to wire in an allowance race at Finger Lakes, going a mile and 70 last time out. He got to the front, he backed down the fraction, and Lobster rolls.
Yeah, I mean, this was a great spot for this horse, stretching out for the first time in a while. He got right to the top on a field that just wasn't as good as he was, Dan. He crushed this field. It's a solid figure. He's got some races on the go back that are relatively fast as well. He's going to need to catch some breaks, I think, to beat this field, but his good race is actually pretty good.
And I would expect him to show some speed, and speed seems to hold well going out of the chute at a mile. Sunday with Sandy might not let him get too far away. However, this horse comes off a gate-to-wire score against fellow New York breds. This going the 1-turn mile at Belmont on July the 7th, and I thought he got a very nice ride from Kendrick Carmouche. It was only a 4-horse field. He was able to set a rated pace, and he sprints on home.
Good performance here, though. This pace is pretty solid, going right to the top. He took a little bit of pressure. It's a short field, but a couple of good horses behind him. I thought he ran really well in here, Dan. He also ran really well 2 starts back when he just got nailed on the wire. He's in really good form right now. This is a big step up in class.
Millionaire Banquet won the Evan Shipman back in 2022. He's back to defend his title, and he's back in good form for winning the Commentator, going a 1-turn mile in a 16th in late May. This was a good field. Not only did he beat 4 of the same horses he'll be racing against on Friday, he beat 3 next out winners. The runner-up coming back to take a state-bred second-level allowance with a 97 buyer. This is a rock-solid racehorse, and I like that they gave him some time after this race.
I do too. This is a really game performance. It looked like he was going to draw away from this field in the final furlong. Olympic Dreams down on the rail there really dug in and made him work, but he was never coming back on Banquet. He got the job done there after a little bit of a trip too back at your track, Dan. Laurel, that was sprinting. I think this distance is better for him. He can be forward in this race, but he doesn't need the lead. He shows up every single time. Easy to make a case for.
Brace is the number 6. This is a very underrated New York bred. He's banked almost $500,000 and is another one coming into the race in very good form. He beat first-level open allowance horses going a 1-turn mile at Belmont early in July. He got right up close to the pace, and this was a pretty solid pace, and he's able to keep on going. I wish there was some more closing going on behind him. I'm not sure what he beat, but he did it the right way.
He did look good winning. He did get a relatively solid figure 4 too. I'm with you, Dan. I'm not sure that this was the strongest field in the world, but at least he won it clear in the final furlong. So that's a good sign for him. 2 starts back, he was in that Commentator against several of these horses. I don't know what happened that day, but he never picked his feet up.
If the track comes up wet, you might want to upgrade the chances of the 7 Sheriff Bianco. A majority of his wins have come on off going, and he ran a good second last time out at Saratoga last month over a sloppy track. This is going 7/8 of a mile, and this is a pretty salty open allowance. You got some horses like Nakatomi in here, who at his best is probably like a grade 3 type, and Sheriff Bianco ran on pretty well to be second.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's pretty game, and he was also wide all the way around the track. And you see the winner. He's down on the inside there. He got right through on the rail. He's going to pull away late, but this horse, Sheriff Bianco, was stuck wide the entire way chasing. His game to get second. He was also in that Commentator, Dan. It's 3 starts back for him. We just saw the replay, and you can go back and pull it up yourself. But he got sort of caught over behind horses, then had to alter course all the way to the outside. I thought he was a pretty good third that day. I think he's a little better going a little bit shorter than this, but if he can work out the right trip, he could be there at a price at the end of this race.
Whittington Park completes this field. He'll have to break from the far outside. Remember, there's a dog leg left after about a furlong or so to head into the backstretch, but he's coming into this race off a 3rd-place effort and a first-level allowance against open foes, a situation where he fell behind early. He comes with a solid enough run. He doesn't threaten for the win, but he is staying on late to finish 3rd.
Yeah, that's typical of him, too. He always runs on, even 2 back, and he was in that Commentator as well, Dan, and he never was a threat to win that race. A little bit of trouble, a little bit of traffic on the backstretch for him, but he did the same thing. He just stayed on down the outside and was along for 5th at the end. He's pretty good. I think he's actually a little underrated. This is still a tough spot for him.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Evan Shipman Handicap. American Revolution on paper is taking a big drop in class, and it is a drop in class, but he's facing a very strong field of New York bred, so he's going to have to be fit to beat them at a short price, but I think if he runs his usual race, he's going to.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way about Dan. I mean, he can't just, sleepwalk over there, I don't think, and beat this field. He's going to have to be close to 100%, but he doesn't have to be 100%. I think his good race is too good for these horses, so I took him on top. I might try to get Sheriff Bianco in there. The distance concerns me, but I think that horse is a little underrated.
I think this pace could heat up. I think Dr. Ardito might be able to save some valuable ground heading into the backstretch and come with a late run. It'll be interesting to see which one shows up. Instead of Dr. Ardito, it's sort of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. 1275 for Mike, 1254 for me. It's the Evan Shipman Handicap and the seasonal debut of American Revolution.